Strong faith. It is a mysterious matter. Some have it, others struggle with it. What is the secret? Let's ask God-fearing Muslims what they think about it. You guys already know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Abdul. So Abdul is he's a Muslim. He's been born in a Muslim family. He hasn't been that religious before. He doesn't know much about the deen, but he's going through some situation in his household. You know, stuff's not going very good, and that's in one way or another led him back to the deen. And now he's facing some kind of struggle, because if you never practice, you know, everything is going to be some sort of a hurdle for you. Praying 5 times a day is very easy if you already, you know, if you have been doing it since you were a child. It's not that easy if you have to start doing it overnight. It's good. I mean, he's been fasting. He's been doing his best reading the Quran, but everything has some sort of it's some sort of challenge to him. He has to kind of force himself to do those things. So we're going to talk about that, but just to start, what do you think about the circumstances that led him back to the deen? Obviously, it's some hardship, right? Things not going right, and eventually that led him back to the deen. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He guides whomever He wills, you know, inshallah. And, you know, it might take a person, you know, an experience to find out, you know, about Allah, you know, to finally, you know, for him to realize that it's not just himself, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there also. I mean, he asks for Allah, you know, when he's at the times of need, you know, which is his lowest time, which is, you know, the example of Abdul in this case, you know. Most people, or not even most people, but people usually when you know, when they get down to those states, they feel needy in a way that they turn back to Allah, or it's like a wake-up call, like Brother Naeem said. And when things are going good, they don't really pay attention to it. So this is kind of what happened in Abdul's situation.
So do you think that is a problem? Is that okay to, you know, kind of be religious when things are not going right, and you know, be like less religious when everything is okay?
Well,
do you think that's a natural pattern, or do you think it's a lack of faith? I mean, we're just trying to understand.
Is it a pattern of lack of faith?
Okay, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it is the problem in the understanding, because Quran also says that when human beings have problem, they come and they do long supplications. But we need to understand whether we are in a good situation or bad situation. This is a test of life. So when we are good situation, we should be thankful, and when we are bad situation, we should be more patient.
So what you're saying is that even if you are in a good situation in life, it's still a test. So when the situation is tough, the test is easier because there's no way you can escape it. I mean, you realize that something's not going right, so it's a wake-up call. But when everything is okay, it's still a test, but it's more difficult to perceive it as a test. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. Abdul just started praying 5 times a day, and it's not easy to pray 5 times a day if you haven't been doing it since you were a child. Now, he has some difficulties to pray in time. Now, do you pray on time, and what do you think would help him kind of remember when it is time to pray and not delay it?
You know, so me, I grew up, and my dad did teach me how to pray. When I was 11, 12 years old, I was praying, you know, especially with my parents at home.
You have to speak up at home.
Oh, no, okay. But when I got into high school, that's when, you know, things changed, and I stopped praying because of the environment. Of course, because of the environment, there was no really, and I didn't really have interest in Islam. I just had interest about having fun and stuff like that. When I got back into it, alhamdulillah, I pray 5 times a day now. But when I got back into it was when I came to this realization. So I already knew the deen. I already knew I had to pray 5 times a day, but I didn't because of lack of interest. But something got me back into it. What got me back into it? It wasn't my parents. Actually, my parents, like, they would tell me to pray, but in my heart, sincerely, that would drag me more away from Islam.
Were they forcing you?
They weren't forcing me, but they would always keep reminding me, pray, pray, pray. And in my mind, I rejected it. I see that what I was doing was wrong. But because of impatience, I rejected everything. You see, it's like trying to feed your body something that your body can't, can't take. Exactly.
So you were not in a spiritual state where you were able to do that.
Exactly.
Did you try to justify it by X, Y, Z reason, or
No,
did you know that you were not doing the right thing?
I knew I was doing wrong, but it didn't affect me.
Because
Exactly. It didn't affect me.
young, it don't, you don't have that
Realization.
Yeah.
realization.
What got me to it is I started finding out more about my religion, more about Islam. Why Islam? Why is Islam correct about religion? Why is Islam so? Why is this my religion? What got me closer is my research about Islam, and then I found out about the miracles of the Quran. I found out more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is what attracted my iman into Islam, and this is what got me into prayer.
So it's interesting. What you're saying is that the prayer is only the consequence of your faith. In other words, if you see that someone is not praying, the last thing that you need to tell them is to pray. Is that what you're saying? Because obviously your parents were telling you to pray, but you wouldn't listen.
Well,
If you tell somebody, what I think is that if you tell somebody to pray, let's say they don't pray, and you go up to them and you say, hey, pray, pray, they're not going to do it. They might pray once, they might pray twice, they might pray for a day, they're not going to get into it, no. But what is getting into it? Their iman. And inshallah, if they start trying, it's hard for people to go cold turkey and to pray 5 times a day, straight up. Some people it takes, 1 prayer a day, and then it leads up to 2 prayers a day, and then 3 prayers, and then eventually they get to 5, but because of their iman, and it is a reflection of their iman.
Yeah.
It is a reflection of their iman. And inshallah, the more iman they have, the more willingness they have to go pray, because that's what they have to do, and they would feel inside their heart.
Yeah, and if you tell
So
them,
the advice that you would give to someone who is struggling to practice or who's not practicing at all is to kind of rediscover their faith? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely.
Do you have anything to say about that?
I agree with this.
So that whole thing about rediscovering your faith, it's very mysterious because some people would, as in the case of Abdul, he came back because of some experience that he had. Some other people would just naturally move towards it, right? And some other people, it's actually the opposite. Everything is going right with their life, and that's what's going to lead them to ask themselves questions. Why is it so easy for me when other people are struggling? So that can also be a wake-up call. So there are just so many ways that people bring people back to their faith.
yeah, because there's all kinds of circumstances that people go through that puts them in that situation.
Do you think it's the hand of God guiding you, bringing
all
you
of
back
all
home?
of it is, yes, yeah. Allah is always in control of everything. You know what I mean? So it's the circumstances and situations that lead you through life and either make you or break you.
Are you deserving of it? Do you think that when someone comes back to their faith, it's because they are deserving of it? They are a good person. That's why Allah brings them back to their faith.
No, it's not that.
There's a little bit of Abdul in all of us. Many times we turn to God when we have problems and we expect a miracle, but it doesn't work that way. Is it because we're not doing the right thing? Do we give a little bit and expect a lot in return? Do we deserve faith? Should God send it down as soon as we ask for it? Or do we have to go through some kind of struggle to get there? That's $1 million question. One thing is for sure, we need to come to God sincerely. Look deep in the mirror and deep inside ourselves and be truthful. Because we can be untrue to others. We can even be untrue to ourselves. But we cannot be untrue to God. He knows what is in the heart.